Hey guys, nice to see you. Sorry I can't be there with you today. Mia and I are up in Cairns on leave. Got some exciting news for you. So we're having a baby, if you haven't heard yet, which is really exciting. Baby is due in the first week of January. We don't know if it's a girl or a boy yet, but we're going to find out and we'll tell you as soon as we can. Thanks for being excited for us. We're really looking forward to it. It's really cool. This term in youth, we're talking about Friends, which is why we just watched that intro video about Friends. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying it's called Friends, and that's what we're talking about this term. And the image of the fountain is one we're going to come back to constantly. So keep that image in your mind, that fountain. A lot of research has gone into this series that we're doing about Friends. 10 seasons, 236 episodes. Ross and Rachel together, not together. Chandler, big, small, big, small. That's just a joke. I didn't actually watch all the episodes of Friends to prepare for this season, but I did do a lot of research, and so have your leaders been doing a bit of reading and learning about friendship. Friendship is a really important topic for a bunch of reasons, but first and foremost, friendships are really important. In high school, they're probably the most important relationships that you have. We tend to have thousands of friends or followers or the equivalent sort of thing. But the thing that's a bit weird is that this generation, you and me and people who are young, kind of especially between 13 and 25, they report to being the loneliest generation around at the moment. They're even lonelier than the old people who live unvisited in retiring villages. We have all the social media in the world, but it's not helping us to feel any sorts of real connection. Which is a real issue, because a lack of friendships is really unhealthy for people. There's been research done to say that having no friends is actually worse for you than smoking. So it's really unhealthy to have no friends. On the other hand, having friends is amazing. Friends are a fantastic blessing. They're a wonderful relationship. Like I said, they're some of the most important relationships that we have. Psychologists say that, but you probably don't need psychologists to tell you that. So the question that we have as we discuss friends this term in NBC Youth, the question that we have is, what does God have to say about friends, and how does our relationship with God change our friendship? Because as Christians, we really believe that having a relationship with God, knowing Jesus, changes everything about us. And especially it changes the way that we have relationships with the people around us. And so that means that our relationship with God impacts our friendships. That's really core to what we're saying this term. Our relationship with God impacts our friendships. And today's talk is just about that idea. How does our relationship with God impact our friendships? And I want to give you this image of a fountain trickling down, because what I want to say to you today is that love trickles down like in a fountain. It comes from God at the top. It lands in the top pool, and then from the top pool, it trickles down to the pools below it. Love trickles down. Let me show you this verse about friendship that Jesus said toward the end of his life. John chapter 15, verse 12 and 13. My command is this, Jesus said, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. What's really significant about this is that Jesus is saying that he has laid down his life for us, and therefore we are his friends. God has called us his friends, and we can call God our friend. There's a great tradition of singing about this. What a friend we have in Jesus. But Jesus' command is this: we should love one another just as Jesus has loved us. And greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Now, you might have this image of love in your mind that's a bit deceptive. Red love hearts, warm, cute, cuddly, fluffy toys. It's soft and it's beautiful, and love is all of those things, but love is also rigorous. And sometimes love is sacrificial, and it's dangerous to be loving. Jesus says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for their friends. And so you could also think of love when you think of war, because ultimately, when the Australians went to World War I or World War II, when they fought at Gallipoli, or when they fought at Kokoda or things like that, that was an expression of love. They were laying down their lives for their country. And Jesus picks up on that idea that greater love has no one than to lay down their life for their friends when he talks about being the good shepherd. Jesus called himself the good shepherd. And he made this really simple comparison. He said, imagine you've got two shepherds and one of them owns the sheep and the other one's just a hired hand. They've just been hired to take care of the sheep. And then, as was common in the ancient world, the shepherd would roam the countryside looking for good grass for their sheep to feed on. And as they did, they would come across bears, they would come across wolves, they would even come across lions sometimes. And the hired hand, when they came across the bears and the wolves and the lions, the hired hand would ditch the sheep and run, because there's no way he was going to sacrifice his love for animals that don't even belong to him. But the shepherd who owns the sheep, on the other hand, the good shepherd, he would lay down his life for his sheep. That's what Jesus says. He says that I love you and therefore I lay down my life for you. And so the good shepherd puts himself in harm's way in order to love and protect his sheep. That's the greatest expression of love that is possible. Let me tell you a story. June 3rd, 1993. A couple called Betty and John Ford were on their honeymoon in Byron Bay. They'd been married for just 15 days and they were off Byron Bay headland. They were scuba diving. It was early in the morning. They'd seen a lot of really cool things. And as they were coming back up to the surface so they could get back into their boat and go home, they were swimming back toward the boat and they saw a dark shadow behind them. John turned around and he saw it was a shark. And initially, he wasn't too worried because the most common shark in the water was the grey nurse shark, and that's not a dangerous shark. But as he saw the shark come closer, he realized it was bigger than a grey nurse shark. It was actually enormous. It was the size of a combi van. And he realized it was actually a great white shark. And the shark was swimming directly for his newlywed wife. In a moment of deep sacrificial love, John swam between this great white shark and his wife, and he sacrificed himself in order to save her. She swam to the surface, she realized what had happened, and she called for help, but it was too late. The shark had taken John. This is an amazing story of sacrificial love. It's one that I read about in the papers a few months ago because this is still a story that people talk about. People were so captured by his love for his new wife that he would give his life up for her. And this is exactly the kind of love that Jesus has given us. He gave up his life for us. He sacrificed himself for his friends to save them. Now, I hope that you know what I mean when I say that love is not this cushy, soft little thing. This is an expression of love that is amazing. It's sacrificial. It's rigorous. In John's letters, he says, this is love. Not that we loved God, but that God loved us, and he gave his son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Because the story of the gospel is that we were in danger because of our sin. But Jesus came and he put himself in harm's way. He sacrificed himself on the cross so that we could be saved from our danger, from the danger of God's wrath that was due to us because of our sins. He gave his life up for us. And this, as Christians, like Jesus says, this is the source of why we love other people. We should love others as we have been loved. This is why I come back to this image of a fountain. Love comes from God. So this is the fountain at the top. And we experience God's love because we're the first pool. But because we've experienced God's love, we also express God's love to those around us. So we experience love first, and then we express it second. And so love trickles down. It starts at the top, it's caught by us, and then it trickles down to all the people who are around us. This is why the video from Friends is so helpful, because it says friends, and it has a picture of a fountain. And that's exactly the picture I want you to think about when you think about friends. You experience love from God, and that love trickles down to those people around you. We love those around us because we have been loved by God. So that's the content of the talk. I'm going to get you guys to watch a video now. Part of this series on friendship, every week, we're going to spend some time thinking about a really practical aspect of friendship. And the first one we're going to look at is this thing called the 5 love languages. Now, you might have heard about these before. It's a really helpful way for you to know how you can express love to people around you so that it's understood and communicated well. Often we try to express love, but people don't understand what we're trying to do. 5 love languages helps us to do this better. Now, the video I'm about to show you, it's about this book called 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's a great book. The video itself is about romantic relationships, but the principles in the video can be applied to any kind of relationship that you have. So your friends, your family, yes, your romantic relationships as well. It can even be applied to the people that you work with. So check out the video. He does say sex at one point, and I'm sorry about that, but I didn't make it. I just thought it was a helpful resource. And once you've watched the video, you're going to go to your discussion groups and chat about it with your discussion groups and try to work out, firstly, what your love languages are, and then maybe the love languages of the people around you, so that you, who can experience the love of God, can then express the love of God to those who are around you. Anyway, peace. See you next week.
What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be on the book, The 5 Love Languages, The Secrets to Love That Last by Dr. Gary Chapman. So have you ever been in one of those relationships where you think you're doing everything you can to please your partner, but they're still feeling frustrated and unloved? I mean, you're giving them compliments, you work hard all day to bring home the bacon and pay the bills, you give them gifts, and you even do some chores around the house, but they're still feeling unloved. I mean, what more do they want, right? It's incredibly frustrating and annoying. Well, the reason why they aren't feeling loved, in short, is that you're not speaking their love language. The premise of the book is that people don't give and receive love in the same way. Most of us think that the way we want to be loved is how others want to be loved as well, but this is not the case. There are, in fact, 5 love languages. This is huge because if you're not speaking the same language as your partner, then you could be missing the mark completely and not even know it. It's basically the equivalent of a British guy trying to talk to a Chinese guy. It's not going to go well because they're simply not going to understand each other. If you're going to have a strong relationship, you have to know how you and your partner both give and receive love. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Let's go through each one a little deeper. Words of affirmation. Do you like hearing I love you or compliments or meaningful words above all else? Are insults especially detrimental to your relationship? If so, then this is probably your love language. If you discover that this is your partner's love language, make sure you give them genuine compliments and tell them you appreciate them often. The second love language is quality time. Do you value full and undivided attention above all else? One-on-one time with the TV off, the cell phone put away, and no distraction is what makes this type of person feel loved the most. Canceled or postponed dates and failure to listen are especially hurtful to this type. If this is your partner's love language, learn to listen better, make eye contact more, and spend more time with them instead of at the office or glued to your cell phone. Ask them what they'd like to do with you, and then schedule a date to do it. Don't assume what they'd like to do with you, ask. The third love language is receiving gifts. Sure, we all like getting gifts, but this type of person loves receiving gifts above all else. Gifts to this type of person mean everything because it shows the love, thought, and effort that went into the gift. I'm not talking about materialistic or the cost of the object, but the thought behind it. Missed birthdays, anniversaries, and thoughtless gifts tear this type of person apart. The cost doesn't matter, it's the thought. It can be as simple as a card or some picked flowers or a note saying that you love their eyes. The fourth language is acts of service. Chores around the house or errands that ease the burden of responsibility are the loving characteristics of this love language. This can be as simple as taking out the trash, paying the bills, doing the dishes, picking up the kids from school, and so on. Broken commitments and laziness can make this type feel unloved. And lastly, physical touch. This doesn't necessarily mean sex. If hugs, cuddling, holding hands, and thoughtful touches are the most important thing to you, then this could be your love language. If their physical presence is crucial to you, then this could be an indicator as well. Any kind of neglect or abuse would destroy this type of person and their relationship. So which one do you most strongly identify with? Keep in mind, you should only have one primary love language. Sure, we may like all those things, but one of them should resonate with you the most. Really think about each one and imagine your partner doing each one in turn and see how you feel. If you're still having a hard time, let's look at a couple ways to figure out your love language. First, examine your childhood. How did your parents express their love to you? What made you feel loved? That may have translated to how you now express and receive it. Another way is to ask, what's your first instinct when you want to show someone you love them? Trust your instinct. And the third way is to look at how you've been hurt deeply in the past. What hurt the most? Exploring that can help shed light on what your love language is. If you still don't know, go take the quiz over at 5lovelanguages.com. Now that you know your love language, think about these love languages from your partner's perspective. Can you identify their love language? I highly suggest you ask them to take the quiz instead of assuming what it is. Remember, what we think is an act of love may not be seen that way by your wife, your husband, or your partner. It really is vital that we learn and understand their love language if we want to make them feel loved. So, find your partner's love language and speak it. Do something special once a week to fill up what Dr. Chapman calls their love tank. Your love tank is like the gas tank in a car. You want to fill it up and keep it full. When your tank is full, your love life will be at its best, and a full tank can keep you going through trying times and relationship difficulties. If you're not consistently filling up the tank, you'll be running on fumes and eventually you'll burn out. Now, if your relationship's already running on fumes, then it'll take a while for the love tank to get full, so keep at it, keep speaking their love language, and over time, your relationship will start going in the right direction. And another big takeaway from the book, Dr. Chapman explains that love is a choice. It's something that you can control. It's a feeling, and even if you lose some of those feelings over the course of a marriage or any other long-term relationship, you can choose to do the actions first, and the feelings of love will follow. This sounds a little counterintuitive, but it works. So that's it, guys. Quick recap. First, you need to find out what your own love language is. It could be words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, or physical touch. And then find out what your partner's love language is. Don't assume what it is, talk to them about it. Then make a commitment to do something special each week, something that ties into their primary love language. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And feel free to check out some of my other videos. Thanks, guys.